maybe we start by rewinding a little bit for those of you that might be newer to the industry. You're not following as much of what's going on. Non-commissionable plans on the Medicare Advantage side have always been a thing in our space. There's always been a list of non-commissionable plans. Funny enough, last AEP, there was people posting nonstop this list of a certain carrier, a large carrier's non-commissionable plans, and they're like fresh off the presses, new non-commissionable plans, and it was from the year before.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, this is new information. Oh, here's my market. I'm like, guess what? That plan's been non-commissionable all year and last AEP.
Yeah.
This is a year-old list.
Chicken Little.
Literally no new information when those posts were being made, but people were panicking as if they were like, this is new information. They didn't even realize the last year they've been surviving just fine with those plans. It's not commission.
I mean, the first thought that comes to mind as we're discussing this is, and we talked about this on the show before, it was the Lead Heroes client that we had. They had ordered, I believe it was the preset appointments for AEP last year, and it didn't seem like they had any qualms with the actual presets themselves. But once the news came out about not having that, some of these plans had gone non-commissionable, and in their market specifically, they did have some of the major plans go non-commissionable halfway through AEP. You know, what was it, November 1st, right? That these went non-commissionable. And their reaction was to throw in the towel. Oh, it's over, you know? Yep. And then Christian and I took the time. We literally went through every single commissionable plan still available in their market. And there was something like 26 or 27 plans.
And there was like 4 or 5 non-commissionables.
Yeah. So even though one of them was, I think, a pretty major plan in the area. And I think that was kind of what sent the shockwave for that agent. But still, it's like they're ready to terminate their license. I mean, that was really the vibe I got from this agent last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a lot of that. Last AEP, there was a lot of panic about this. And yes. I am heavily betting that maybe not during AEP, but from now until AEP, as news comes out, there will be similar kind of panic that happens. Now, last AEP was a little bit unprecedented from the standpoint that a lot of these carriers put out some non-commissionable plans before AEP, but then they started suppressing plans, meaning that they would only pay the commissions if you did a paper app. They're just trying to make it more difficult to submit business instead of just pulling commission altogether. Or they just pulled commission altogether in the middle of AEP with like November 1st effective dates, December 1st effective dates, things like that. And then this year, in quarter one, we saw some carriers add new plans to the list, things like that. We saw a carrier put out some new non-commissionable plans, a pretty major one that are effective 9/1 going into AEP. So we saw a lot of this over the last year. We're going to probably see more. I'm expecting that the carriers will probably put out their non-commissionable plans lists over the next couple of months before October 1st, if they're going to add anything to it. Some of them, from the conversations I've had, have communicated that they're likely not going to put out any more, and they put theirs out earlier in the year. So they already kind of took care of it. But other carriers, I guess what I'm saying, the difference between this AEP and next is my anticipation is any new non-commissionable plans should be put out before AEP instead of during AEP.
Yeah.
Because last AEP, remember, was the first year that enrollments were being done for 1/1 effective dates where the new $2,000 prescription drug cap due to the Inflation Reduction Act was in force. And so these carriers also were trying to predict how much business they were going to be getting on certain plans and try to forecast kind of what their claim responsibility would be to cover these members. And they started seeing, middle of October, middle of November, we're going to take it in the shorts if we keep getting more business for this plan. So they're scrambling to make adjustments. They didn't want the business for those plans. So that's a little bit of the background of kind of what we've seen over the past couple of years. Before we jump into like what's coming and kind of what I would expect to come with this going forward. Like, talk a little bit about like your perception watching this happen last year during AEP, this year, the panic, everything going on. Like, what was like your thoughts when you were seeing all this unfold?
Well, it's tough because this is so regionally. This is a lot of times a regional specific issue.
Certainly,
At ESI, we didn't experience the sort of plan changes or that some of you had to deal with surrounding these non-commissionable plans in the middle of AEP. So, but there's others, other agents that we work with that had experienced, significant change. So I think part of it is just be prepared for worst case scenario, right? Like, as far as like what's coming this AAP, not saying that that's what will happen, but be prepared for it for sure. Again, the webinar we're going to be doing here in about 3 hours is to try to help you guys prepare for AAP and these types of situations that can come up. But after last AAP, there should be really no surprises. It also should be clear too that there's going to be a path forward. Yeah. We had an agent, I can't remember what call it was on, where we're on so many different calls and platforms, including this podcast. But they were saying that in their local area, their region that they're marketing, that they're licensed in, that all the MA plans pulled out. There was no more MA plans. And again, kind of a weird situation, right? Where, if you're selling majority Medicare Advantage and all of a sudden, you had 2 or 3 and then they're just gone, right? And it sounded like it wasn't just non-commissionable. I think they literally these plans pulled out of the local market. So it's like, what do? You sell Medicare supplement, right? You sell Med Sup. You keep trucking, and you wait for the pendulum to swing back, and you wait for that Medicare Advantage plan to show back up, because most likely it will, right? Because that's most likely going to be the future of Medicare. So, so my first thought is, like, as we're getting into this, as we're already seeing kind of what's coming, I am still seeing that those two camps. I mean, literally, we did that episode the other day. We were talking a little bit about this, about AEP coming up, and the idea of these two camps of, like, the agent that's really scared of what's coming, they're going to just focus on retention, and then the other agent that, like, sees the opportunity, they're going to retain their clients, and they're going to add a bunch of new clients to their book. It was like the next day or within 24 hours, I saw a post and someone commented. It was like the top comment on a post about non-commissionable plans, and it was like, I'm ready to quit this industry. That was like the top. And then the top comment underneath that comment was, all I see is opportunity from another agent. And I'm like, there it is. I'm like, that's the dichotomy of what we're experiencing right now as an agent community. Is like, seems like half of us are ready to self-terminate our licenses, and the other half are like, okay, this is, the water's a little choppy right now, but nothing that I can't navigate,
Yeah. I mean, and I know, we're going to shift gears into this next, but like, what we're going to see with the plans that went non-commissionable, it's starting to kind of come to light, right?
Yeah.
As some carriers are putting out their first looks and kind of releasing information about plans that are not going to be renewed next year. It's looking like a lot of the plans that went non-commissionable earlier this year or last AEP are going to be terminated and not renewed.
Not surprising,
for 2026. And so what that tells me is, let's say we had a non-commissionable plan list that was this big. Let's say, if you can see my, this is my analogy. Okay. After last year, it went to this, right? Now, a lot of these plans are going to be termed. So it's going to go back down to this, right? So,
right.
A lot, you probably won't run into as many suppressed plans, non-commissionable plans. It depends on your market, of course. This isn't going to be a blanket statement, but in a lot of areas, because a lot of those plans are not going to be renewed, because the plan for that carrier all along was to not renew that plan. That was their plan, right? But by the time they started to see kind of the forest through the trees, it was already too late. They're already committed to those plans for 2026. So what's the next best option? Slow enrollments. Stop enrollments if you can. Get as few people on those plans as possible, because anybody that gets enrolled is going to be a member that's going to be losing their plan in a year, right? So what that tells me is amazing. I mean, for a lot of markets, I mean, and you're right? We saw a lot of markets where there were a lot of really competitive plans that went non-commissionable that couldn't be sold in that market. It made selling in that market a little more challenging, not impossible, but a little bit more challenging. A lot of markets that had that situation last AEP will probably see a lot of those plans just be done away with this AEP, and you'll have a higher percentage of plans available in your market that can be sold, right? I said from the beginning, this non-commissionable plan thing, this plan suppression thing, is a pendulum that will swing back the other way.
If those plans got terminated, that means those seniors have to move to a new plan,
right?
right?
Exactly.
So I mean, last year's frustration could turn into this year's, pay dirt. I mean, you could absolutely cash out on those non-commissionable plans that may have screwed you over in your local market last year.